Hi, I'm going to wait for a couple of people to join. I apologize, I started streaming live earlier and I forgot to turn my phone on Do Not Disturb, and people just keep calling and calling me, and it keeps getting interrupted and dropped. So I decided to start over again. Today's news is for the week that ends. Today's date is September 17th. So it's all the news this week that ends today. And I decided to make this video because this was a big week, and I just thought it was worth doing a couple of lives earlier this week, but also doing one this week to end it on Friday. So I'm gonna do it Friday, and actually I'm planning to start doing these lives on a regular basis because I feel that people are really interested in hearing anything and everything that happened in immigration every week, right? So hi from California, and hi from Chicago, and hi from Seattle. Every friend that's watching, you guys out there, you're giving me so much energy and so much, passion and drive to keep doing this because I love to do my job. I love legalizing people. Believe me, I do this because I really enjoy legalizing people. I enjoy making their dream come true. And I'm an immigrant myself, so I know exactly how you guys feel because myself and my family, we've been in your shoes. So that's why I'm doing so much work to bring immigrants complicated, complex, convoluted things that come out in the news, that come out from Congress, and you'll see published on websites, but in reality, many immigrants don't really understand what it even means. And I have a secret for you. Even I sometimes don't understand what they mean, but I go over it. I read other attorneys, I read other people, other journalists in the field, and I get it. And then I take all that information and I recycle it, and then I explain it to you guys. So that's kind of my motto, to take the most complicated information about immigration law and bring it to you guys in simple form. So there were three big things that happened this week, and you'll see me moving around a little bit today because I'm going over some things on my screen because I prepared for today's stream, and I was prepared to talk about the three big things that happened in immigration news this week. Before I get into it, I'm going to ask you to join as subscribers to my channel, subscribe to my channel, give us some hearts, some likes. My team and I work really hard on these for you to make things super interesting for you guys, not boring, not complicated, and in a way that you can share this information with other people too, if you decide to, and they will get it as well. So I'm going to get right into it. This week was big because Congress finally came out with specific categories of people that they said they will legalize once they pass this law that they're calling a pathway to citizenship. And that's an amnesty, okay? Some people are saying, oh, Marina, don't use this word amnesty because it's a technical word and it means something else. But in reality, it is an amnesty, okay? Maybe it's not the most technical word, but it's the most accurate, okay? It's accurate to call legalizing undocumented immigrants or who have no other status right now in the United States to be members of an amnesty, okay? A pathway to citizenship is something weird and that nobody really understands. An amnesty, everyone understands. So they promised to work on this amnesty, and they said who will qualify for it if it passes Congress, okay? So on the 13th, they had a vote, and they voted in the Judiciary Committee, which is part of Congress that makes decisions if they're going to work on laws or not. If some laws are even going to be worked on, forget about passing them. Are they even going to discuss them? So they decided to begin discussing them. And in this particular case, they're going to add the amnesty into the financial budget bill. since it seems to be the most quickest way to pass it. Now they got a lot of pressure from President Biden and Democrats and other people around the country who said, look, you've been promising people a legalization amnesty for so long. Come on, you have to finally do your job and, fix this problem of at least 11 million undocumented, still kind of illegal immigrants that we know of live in this country. In reality, it's a lot more. In reality, it's more like 19 million, I think, because there have been other studies since then. So there's about, let's say, 19 million people in this country who still don't have a social, who still don't have a work permit, and there's no way to legalize them anytime soon. So they're going to start working on those people. And I'm going to talk about the categories right now. Category number 1. It's kind of like Daca, so it's going to be for kids who were brought into the United States under the age of 18. So that is the first category of people they're going to legalize through this new amnesty. And I'm just going to look up my article that I published already on my Facebook page that I listed out these categories, and it's super easy to read. Okay, so that seems to be the first category. And they extended the age to 18 years old, where DACA was what President Obama passed. It was an executive order. It was not a law. It was like a temporary thing, an executive order. And then Trump ended up doing a lot of executive orders as well because he liked the idea of passing right by Congress and doing everything himself, which is really unconstitutional. So finally, Congress decided to fix this problem, and many people agree that children who were brought into the United States before they turned 18 years old should be legalized. So the first category that this new amnesty, this pathway to citizenship will legalize is DACA kids. And they have to prove they were in the United States as of January 1, 2021. And they were brought here under the age of 18. By the way, an important point. Each of these categories is going to have to pay a penalty. A penalty they're calling a supplemental fee. So other than the usual filing fees, which of course will, everybody has to pay, there will be a separate legalization supplemental fee, or like a penalty. Like you have to pay extra to be legalized because you had no other way other than this new law. And it's a way for the government to make some extra money. But each category will have its own separate fee and they will be different. So DACA is category number 1. Category number 2 is employment-based immigrant applicants. Okay, in simple words, category 2 is people whose bosses, whose companies filed for them work petitions to get them green cards. Okay, it's work-based green cards. It's category number 2. And those people had to have filed at least 2 years before. So if you were in the category of having your company file for a green card through work for you more than 2 years before, you will be able to legalize, but you will have to pay a fee of $5,000. And I'm sure they're going to make the employer pay for them, not the people. But look, in reality, I think the employers are going to somehow under the table force the individual employees to pay for this, but we'll see. And, again, this law didn't pass yet. This is just a plan, like a blueprint that they finally released. So at least people would have an idea of who will legalize under this and who will not, okay? So we discussed so far 2 categories. Dreamers or DACA kids who were brought to the United States under 18, and people who've been waiting 2+ years for work-based green cards, okay? We move those 2 aside, we move on to the 3rd category. The 3rd category is going to be U.S. citizen relatives, okay? It's going to be people whose U.S. citizen relatives filed for them. They have to wait in long lines, okay? These are probably siblings, of U.S. citizens. These are probably married children over U.S. citizens, and they also had to have waited at least 2 years or more to legalize, and there's no other way to legalize. They will have to pay a supplemental fee of $2,500, and that's like a penalty. So on top of the usual green card fees, these people will be able to file for a green card, but will have to pay a penalty of $2,500. So that's category number 3. We move on. People who have had TPS, which is temporary protected status. People who've had this TPS from Haiti, from El Salvador, from Nicaragua, and there's a whole list of countries, Syria. If you have TPS for at least 3 years, you have to have had TPS for 3+ years. You will also qualify for this new pathway to citizenship under this blueprint plan. It's like a proposal. It's just a plan right now. It's not a law yet. But if you've had TPS for 3+ years, you will qualify. Another thing, another category is people who got deferred enforced departure as of January 20, 2021. The next category is farm workers. The next category, and this is the most popular one, I think, is going to be essential workers. Essential workers, they defined to be people who work in the following industries. Are you ready? It's not just medical, okay? Essential workers are people who've been fighting COVID, who've been participating, helping America against COVID during the pandemic. And that is a category where you have to prove that you've been working in the pandemic at least as early of January 31, 2020 in the following industries: medical, healthcare, pharmaceutical. Pretty clear. But it doesn't end there. It's infrastructure builders, people who build roads and buildings. Transportation, people who work in transportation. People who work in the food industry. People who work in law enforcement. People who work in computers and IT, okay, informational technology. People who work in restaurants. People who work in deliveries of supplies, medical stuff, driving people to the hospital. I think cabs, trucks, all of those people will be eligible. And this refers to anybody who's working, who can prove they're working, and they're probably in some other status. Like maybe they're waiting for asylum or in some visa that allows them to work, or they're self-employed, anything like that. You will be able to get a green card through this pathway to citizenship, and you will have to pay at least $1,500 supplemental fee. And the final category, and that's probably category number 9, according to my count, is immigrant investors. I'm talking about large investors. I'm talking about at least $500,000 or $1 million investors in the U.S. Economy. And I'm talking about the EB5, the category EB5, immigrant investors and their families, and they will pay the highest supplemental penalty fee. They will have to pay $50,000. That's right. But, for somebody who's putting $1 million into the U.S. economy, another $50,000 doesn't seem like a lot, but of course it's a lot of money. So some great news in that category of who they promised to legalize, okay? So what does this mean? That means they're moving this plan to the stage where they're going to add more details to all this. And these people want to put this up for vote. It's going to go through the House of Representatives first, and then it's going to go to Senate. And if it goes through all those and everybody agrees more or less, and most people will vote according to the party lines, which means The Republicans are going to be against it, and the Democrats are probably going to be mostly for it. It will get to the president to sign it and finalize it. Of course, the president will sign it. This I have no doubt about. So we discussed this pathway to citizenship. They gave a specific plan now for what are the like pretty much 9 categories of people that they're planning to include. And again, it doesn't mean that all will be included. The people I'm betting on being included, like if I had to put money on who I personally think definitely will be included, is Daca kids, essential workers, and farm workers. I don't know about the other people. They might stay, but maybe not. But Daca, farm workers, and essential workers, I think definitely should be included, okay? Some negatives of this, and I will move on, of course, but before I move on, this is all great, but I see some negative things, some issues, some things that they could still fix, okay? Number 1, they're not getting rid of H-1B and other employment caps, okay? First of all, different countries have different caps, and then there's, caps even for every other country, okay? So I don't think that's a great thing. They're not getting rid of those caps. They're not doing much for anybody who's waiting overseas. Like if U.S. citizens had filed for people overseas, they're still in India, they're still in Pakistan, in Russia, in Africa, I don't think this law will work for them at all. It doesn't cover people overseas. They're not doing systemic fixes to our broken system. They're not fixing the system. They're just letting certain categories of people to become legalized. That's why I'm calling it an amnesty. It's not like an overhaul. It's not like fixing the whole thing. It's not. The structure is staying the same. And also, the biggest problem that I see, and something they've been promising to fix but did not fix to date, is the long waiting lines, the delays in getting interviews and getting visas issued, and getting green card interviews scheduled, asylum interviews scheduled, immigration court hearings scheduled. And I'm talking about people who've been waiting 6 years, 7 years, 9 years, 10 years. Some people have been waiting for many, many years. They're in limbo. They're pending status. They don't have any status, and not all of them don't even have a work permit, okay? So people are just in limbo and waiting and don't even have a work permit. So this pathway to citizenship is not a real fix, but it's like an amnesty, okay? So some people will qualify under it. The other big news this week is that along way of this pathway to citizenship, they also talked about a bipartisan bill, meaning both parties supported this, that would create a pathway to citizenship for certain young adults and kids who were raised in the United States but faced deportation when they turned 21 years old. And that will be called the America's Children Act. And it was introduced after the House this week talked about the budget bill, of course, and this will have to do with children who are eligible for green cards as derivatives of parents who were filed for, but when the kids turn 21, they become ineligible because of their age. So they get knocked out of any category as soon as they turn 21. Many of these kids have been waiting for years and raised and educated in the United States, and that's just not right. And the Daca program didn't fix all of this. So this is a separate program that will qualify kids who are brought here under the age of 21. Okay, so again, this is just a plan right now. They didn't get into too much details, but it will be a separate law, and it will be called, as I mentioned, the America's Children Act. Kind of like DACA as well. Okay, so we move on. So this was news item number 2 that I wanted to discuss. The third thing I wanted to discuss is the mandatory COVID vaccination. And then once I talk about that, I will answer some of your questions that I'm seeing on my screen, but I haven't gotten to, but I will. Okay, so USCIS said that everyone filing for a green card or an immigrant visa will have to do vaccinations, dose 1 and dose 2, full vaccination before they even can ask the doctor to fill out the medical exam for them for the green card. So just like there's a whole list of vaccines that you have to prove to your doctor, it's called civil surgeon. So briefly, people want to get a green card, they have to have a medical exam. When you do the exam, you go to one of the doctors that USCIS designated as the kind of doctors who can approve you for this, okay? And who can't even do the exam, who even have a right to sign such a thing, okay? Not every doctor does. They're called civil surgeons. So for the civil surgeon to even begin working on your medical exam, you have to show a bunch of vaccines, because we don't want communicable bad diseases that are long gone in the United States, but still might be alive in some other countries, like Africa, unfortunately, to come here. So the doctor wants to look at all your vaccinations. They'll look at your vaccines. So now the COVID-19 vaccine will have to be on that paper. You will have to have proof that you did the full vaccination, not just started with dose 1, but did the entire full COVID-19 vaccination, and you'll have to prove you did it. Now, for people who are against vaccinating, there are exceptions, but you will have to make a waiver application, and you will have to prove that you qualify for an exception, that you're different, that you're not like everyone else, that you're allowed to not do the vaccine for certain reasons, and they have to be serious reasons, like your health. And I'm not saying you're allergic, I'm saying like you're missing a lung, or you have some serious heart disease and you cannot do the vaccination. So that's the rule that will start from October 1. And if you are in the process of getting your green card interview, you will probably already have to do this if your interview is going to be after October 1. Another thing that happened last week, but I want to discuss again because it's such a common thing, is that they have extended the time you will automatically receive when you file for your 10-year green card. So if you file the form I-751 to remove conditions on your 2-year temporary conditional green card, and you're looking to get the 10-year green card, you're looking to get the unconditional status because you're still married 2 years later to your U.S. citizen spouse, or you're looking for a waiver of that, but you were married to your U.S. citizen spouse and maybe they abused you, or maybe you got divorced because it's their fault or whatever. Now you will have 24 months automatic extension when you file. Before this, when you filed, you received a letter automatically as soon as they collected the fee for you filing to remove conditions for 18 months. So you had a letter that says, you so-and-so have 18 months extension of your conditional status. It's automatic, okay? Now you will have 24 months. Why are they doing this? Because the reality is the delays are great. Everybody's waiting in line for this petition to be approved, and other things with USCIS too, of course, but the delays are so huge that they're taking at least 24 months. This 24 months might not even be enough, but instead of you guys calling them and bothering them and asking, when are you going to extend it again? I need another extension. It's been more than 18 months, and so on and so on. They don't want you calling and bothering them anymore. They will be mailing these letters to new applicants saying your status, your 2-year status is automatically extended by 2 more years, which means you will now have 4 years of status. And people ask me a lot of times if during that time you can file for citizenship. Because if you've been waiting for 2 years and you want to file for citizenship, and now it's already 3 years since you've gotten your first conditional green card, you can file for citizenship. But remember, if you have one thing pending and you file another, there's technically a problem because now you only have one file and there's two departments that want your file. So they might get confused and lose your file or forget about it, or, get whatever, mixed up where it goes. I usually tell my clients to just wait to get the removal of conditions approved and then file for U.S. citizenship, okay? I'm going to get into my comments now, and I'm going to try to respond to as many as I can. So I'm going to give me a second, I'm going into my videos on my computer, not on my phone. Okay. And okay, there's no way I'm gonna have to do it on my screen. Okay. Okay, Elisana says, I had an interview on May 25th and I'm still waiting for the approval. Okay. I am desperate with my mom's health and I don't see her for 18 years. And can I get an advance parole and travel, and how to deal with this, please? I don't know what kind of an interview you had, but if you had an interview for a green card, certain green card holders are allowed to have an advance parole. You file the form I-131. You can try to get an emergency appointment with InfoPass to get it issued by them on the spot. Like if you go in, they have a capability, a way to give you your advance parole on the spot, but you have to prove an emergency. You have to prove that, like, your mom, God forbid, is dying, or she has some very serious disease that you have to travel right now. So that's the answer to that. I see she said yes for green card. Green card holders are allowed to file for advance parole, but it's going to take 8 to 9 months. So you can file for it and wait, or if you want it urgently, like an emergency, you have to have a document proof why it's an emergency. And I'm moving on. Okay. Wassam says, please, I have an I-130 approved pending for 4 years. Can I do adjustment? If you had a U.S. citizen file for you, and you filed for more than 4 years, as you said ago, under this new amnesty, you will be able to legalize. So you should be in good position for that. Hi, Marina, says Ama. Hi, Marina. Will international students who overstayed their visa benefit from the new amnesty? I'm going to tell you that if you're just an international student who overstayed, no. But if you worked as an essential worker, you had a U.S. citizen file for you, then yes. Okay, Pratik says, how about if essential employee get paid cash, like off the books, but he or she works the whole pandemic? How can he prove that he got consistently earnings? Okay, I think we'll see, because I don't know all the details yet. They're just generally saying that essential workers will have to prove a record of earnings. I have a feeling that, like, if you file taxes to have worked in that field, or if your employer gives you a letter, you'll be okay, I think. But again, we don't know. The law hasn't passed yet. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. Annie K says, my mother is a U.S. citizen. Okay, I'll get to that in a minute. Demetra says, hi, Marina. I have an approved I-140. Hi, Marina. I've been approved I-140, but I've been out of status for a few years. I'm not an essential worker. Can I pay the $5,000 fee and adjust my status under this new proposed law? I have a feeling yes. I have a feeling yes, because you will be one of those employment-based immigrants that they're talking about. I think you'll be great. You just have to wait, and hopefully this will pass, and we'll see, okay? Okay. You're awesome, says Taylor. You explain everything very easy way. Thank you so much for watching. Okay, Anike, I'm getting back to you. My mother is a U.S. citizen. She filed for me, but I'm married and it's been about a year and a half. I think you have to wait for 2 years under this law. Okay, so you'll have to wait for 2 years. What dates are going in Mumbai, India for conditional resident one? You'd have to look it up. I don't have it in front of me right now. Dimitri says, yay, thank you. Thank you. What about not with 2 years? You won't be able to do anything. It says clearly it has to be 2 years right now. Again, if the law passes with something else, we'll see. Pratik says, how about if essential employee? Okay, we discussed it. If you got paid cash, you'll have to prove it somehow. Hi, Marina. Will international students who overstayed their visas benefit from the new amnesty? I addressed this. If you're just a student, then no. But if you're an essential worker, then yes. Please have I-130 approved pending for 4 years. Could I get the adjustment? If you had the I-130 filed by U.S. citizen, then yes. Okay. Marina, what about I-130? Okay, I discussed this. Okay, what about I-360? Do they benefit from this? If you mean VAWA, no, they didn't talk about VAWA. Okay, Steven says, I have an issue. I filed an I-751 removal conditions for my wife. We moved after receiving the status of the case. The case is ready to set up for an interview. Will I receive my notification at old or new address? This is an important question. If you moved, you must file online for the change of address. I also would call and report that you moved to a different address. And also, I would mail in to the last service center or the field office of your new place the change of address copy with the receipt notice, with a little cover letter saying, we moved, we now live in this area, you're our new field office, attaching the receipt notice so they know who you are, your case number, your alien number, and hopefully they will realize it's going to the new address. If not, and you will see on the internet when you check the status of your case that they scheduled your interview and the letter went out, you can call them and ask them which address they sent it to. So on the phone, they will tell you. And, you know, just work with the phone number they have, the customer service. They will help you make sure it goes to the right address, okay? He's from California. Thank you. Somebody from New Mexico. Hi, thank you for watching. Prakob is from Brooklyn. I'm from Brooklyn, but now I live in New Jersey. From Louisiana. Hello, Louisiana. I'm doing this in New Jersey from my home office, but my firm where I work during the week is in New York City, in Brooklyn. So I love to see everybody from the different states, and I'm so happy you guys are watching. It makes me so happy because otherwise, why am I doing this? To be talking to myself? I hate talking to myself. EJ says, for the House proposed immigration bill as a dreamer, I only meet the age requirement and the residency requirement, but I never went to college or military or work. Do I still qualify? Honestly, with the new law, I don't know yet. They did mention that it's going to be the age of 18, but we don't know all the kinks yet. So let's wait and see. It's going to be a little different from Daca that Obama passed, okay? Lupita says, I don't have Daca, but will I be in the immigration reform? I don't know. We'll have to see. This is just the proposal. And there's a Russian person who says hi in Russian. Добрый день, добрый день. And EJ says, thank you. On this note, thank you guys all for watching. Hi, Florida. Hi. Glad to see you watching in Florida. I have a place in Florida too. So I go to Florida all the time. Thank you all for watching this live and bearing with me, even though I started my first attempt and had to drop because my phone kept ringing. I always have to now remember to turn the do not disturb sign on, and I'm getting more experienced as a blogger and as a live person, so hopefully you guys will give me a little break and not get too upset with me. Okay, that's it for today. Have a great weekend, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. get some rest. I'm gonna try to set up a regular live, maybe going forward every Friday. I'm gonna have to talk to my team about it, but I love doing it, and I see that a lot of you are watching, so that makes me happy. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.